Story 1. My mother thinks she's entitled to alcohol at my wedding. My fiance, 35 male, and I, 33, non-binary, are getting married in 2 weeks in our backyard. We will be having a catering spread for our reception afterwards. We decided to have a dry wedding for 2 reasons. My mom is an alcoholic who is known for making a scene when she gets drunk, and my fiancé has a brother who binge drinks and has had alcohol poisoning on more than one occasion. He doesn't drink all the time, but if he starts, he can't stop until he either passes out or someone physically restrains him from getting more. I also have an uncle, Mom's brother, and a stepdad who are in recovery and don't need the temptation. Neither fiancé and I are big drinkers, so we decided to just avoid any problems and just have a dry wedding. We will have a less dry reception, party/honeymoon with some of our friends later on. All of our families have been supportive. My uncle was especially grateful to us for doing this since he takes his recovery very seriously and has been 7 years sober. I sent out wedding invitations 4 months ago and said it would be a dry wedding and asked people not to bring alcohol. Now today, I get this call from my mom, who I also sent an invitation to 4 months ago. Mom, is it true you're not having alcohol at your wedding? Me, yes. Fiancé and I decided we didn't want alcohol during our special time. Mom, that's so silly. It's going to make your wedding boring. Me, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but fiancé and I have made our decision. We want everyone to feel comfortable at our wedding. Mom, clearly you don't care about my comfort. What if I want to have a little drink to pass the time? Me, like you did at a different uncle's wedding where you got so drunk and made a horrible scene calling uncle's wife a gold digger? Mom, it wasn't my fault. They made the drinks there too strong. Me, right. I really wish you would address this need to have alcohol wherever you go. Mom, I don't need to have alcohol. I just think your wedding will be boring without it. You want to have a fun wedding, don't you? Me, it will be a fun wedding. We don't need alcohol to have fun. Mom, oh, this is so stupid. Why should everyone else be punished just to make it comfortable for a few people? It seemed like you care more about uncle and stepdad than anyone else. Me. Or maybe I just want to avoid any scenes. Mom, I just told you that wasn't my fault. Me, just like your DUI isn't your fault? Mom, how dare you bring that difficult time in my life? I was going through a lot emotionally. What the hell is wrong with you kids? You need to mind your own business. If I want to drink, that's my business. Me, well, my wedding is my business. We don't want alcohol there. That's final. I can't stop you if you decide to pre-game my wedding, but I've already made it clear to uncles and brothers that if you cause a scene, that you're to be made to leave. Mom starts crying. Why do you kids hate me so much? What did I ever do to deserve being treated like this by my children? Me, are you really ready for me to go down that list? Mom, none of you understand. None of you will ever understand. I'm the mother of the bride. I shouldn't be treated like this. I should be treated better. Me, I think I've treated you pretty well during this process. I've acquiesced to your boyfriend, whom I don't even know, coming to my wedding. I've even given in to some of your other demands. So please, tell me how you've been mistreated. Mom, you didn't invite me to go dress shopping. The mother of the bride always goes dress shopping with her daughter. I barely know the fiancé because you never bring him around here. How do I know that you're marrying the right person? Me, that's because Aunt made my dress. Mom, sarcastically, oh, well, isn't that just special? Me, as for the rest, I think you know why. We aren't really close enough for you to have any say in who my significant other is. Honestly, Mom, I'm done with this conversation. If you really feel that strongly about this, I'll understand if you don't want to attend my wedding. Mom: "Oh, I bet you'd like that, wouldn't you? One way or another, you will respect me as your mother." Me: "Sure, Mom. I'm hanging up now. Bye." Guys, I'm so livid right now. I have half a mind to want to invite her. I spoke to my dad and her brother. My uncle thinks her drinking is getting really bad again and has been wanting to hold an intervention. I told him I'm focused on the wedding right now, but that I definitely agree this was out of line and something needs to be done. What should I do? I don't want her ruining my wedding, but I'm so tired of dealing with this. Sorry, this is probably above anyone's pay grade. I just needed to vent. I really am on the fence about this. If you uninvited her to the wedding right off the bat, she might just make some sort of scene before. She might just try to crash. I don't know if she will or not. If you let her there, she's probably going to pregame, or she's probably going to try and sneak something in. And it's best probably to find a couple of people who would be, a couple of relatives who'd be willing to stand guard at the door while this is happening, really. Because one way or the other, I think she's going to show up drunk. What do you think? Story 2. Fire me? You're all losing your jobs. My 2019 was wild. But with everything finally on the up and up, I feel I can tell this story here. After uni, late 2018, I fell on rough times and was forced to move back to my hometown. I tried to transfer my job to a branch in my area, but failed. Thus, I needed to get a new job. I settled for a 20-hour-a-week job at a Bookies, with a second bartending job in the evenings. The Bookies are the target for my revenge, which was entirely accidental. Involved are Janelle, my manager's manager; Shay, my manager; Jorge and Gordon, my coworkers; and Kara, a coworker at another store who is relevant later. Names changed and/or redacted. I ended up working behind the counter as a customer service manager, basically a step up from a cashier. It's fancy when seen on a CV, but there's nothing really to it. I took bets, chatted with customers, helped people with machines, and, for the vast majority of my shift, sat around waiting for something to do. I got on well with my coworkers, or so I thought, and had no major issues. It was 20 hours a week, about £1 more than minimum wage, with a lot of overtime required for me and irregular shift patterns. Though I had no issues with the job, beyond how difficult it was to juggle the schedules of both my jobs. In February of 2019, after working for the company for 6 months, I was invited to a probation hearing. It cannot be emphasized enough that it was a probation hearing in which I would have my performance reviewed and, as informed in training, was entitled to a pay rise at the end of it. I arrived that morning to a disciplinary hearing where, without even a shred of evidence, I was accused of 11 different cash discrepancies dating back to early November of 2018, shortly after I'd started, which all amounted to £271.36. All but one of which I'd never heard of before. These had apparently been reported and logged by my manager, Shay, and my coworkers, despite no one saying a word to me at all. Not a whisper in the 5 months this had apparently been occurring. I was told that it was unacceptable. A call was made to HR, and I was terminated on the spot and forced to hand over my keys and to never set foot in the store again. To my protests, I was told the decision could not be appealed, and I would eventually receive written confirmation of my employment termination in the post. I didn't let myself slump around and feel sorry for myself, so, on the way home, I opened up Indeed and applied for a bunch of jobs, and before I arrived home, had an interview set up for the next week in what is my current place of work. Now, I was furious, fuming at having gone to what I thought should have been a normal probation meeting and having effectively been called a thief and been banned for life from a place I'd never go to anyway. But somehow, my parents were angrier and ordered me to let them know when they got into contact with me again. Almost 2 weeks later, I received an email from the company's HR, which reiterated the accusations and stated again that I was terminated. My mom sat me down in her kitchen and walked me through a letter response that was 2 parts professional and 3 parts scathing, ripping into them about their unprofessional conduct, their ludicrous claims, their lack of evidence, their holes in the story, because there were quite a few, and finally, the cherry on the cake: the employment laws they'd broken. Now, I didn't want much, just a nice reference, a promise that not a whisper of these accusations would turn up when my job asked them for a reference, when my new job asked them for a reference, because by then I'd already been offered the job. I then attached the letter to an email to fire back at their HR department. Then I added Janelle's work email, then her boss's email, and finally the holding company that owned the brand, because I wanted to make sure this was seen. A bit of background. The bookies I work for is a brand that's owned by an international company. Their name, behind the scenes, is slapped on everything, and they pretty much dictate everything we did. I'm not sure if holding company is the correct term, but I'll stick to that for now. Anyway, I sent this email with a 48-hour window for a response. I received a reply the next day from the same email that my demands were being met. I smirked victoriously and moved on with my life, happy to wash my hands of the entire ordeal. However, I'd set off a chain reaction that I wouldn't know about until 3 months later. 3 months on, I'd settled into my new job, a call center position with double the hours and well over double the pay. I'd gone through training and was settling into my new position when I saw a new set of trainees settling in near my team. Among them was Gordon, one of my coworkers from the bookies. I was stunned. Gordon had been at the bookies for 6 years when I joined. He was well-liked, good at his job, and a favorite of the managers. There was no way he'd been fired. Though I didn't really want to talk to him, as I was of the impression that he, Jorge, and my manager had likely set me up, I did want to know what happened. Luckily, on seeing me in the break room one shift, he sought me out and told me everything. Apparently, my email had been read by the higher-ups in the holding company and had caused a lot of scrutiny to fall onto the bookies in our town, of which there were 3 in our area that Janelle was responsible for, 2 in my town and a 3rd in a neighboring one. Someone in HR passed a message down to the area manager, Janelle's boss, claiming they wanted things investigated and they wanted results yesterday, causing him to drop everything and descend on our little town with the panic and aggression of a man whose superiors were watching his every move. He went to Janelle wanting to know why he hadn't been made aware previously that I was apparently stealing money, why I had been given keys to the shop and shifts on my own when allegations of that nature were attributed to me, and why I hadn't been put under investigation. Turns out, Janelle had in fact put in my employee file that I was under investigation, but had never actually gone through with any of the official procedures for monitoring and investigating me. Shock, horror. Thus, she had fired me for the accused crime without looking into it at all, falsely claiming otherwise. Thus, the area manager took the dates and amounts of the cash discrepancies, confirmed that they had been reported on those days, without my knowledge, in Shay's own logbook of the shop's cash, and sent that information onto our security team to investigate. Another little detail is that the CCTV for every shop in the brand is outsourced to a private security company who monitors each shop remotely and has access to all the cameras and video. As was procedure, they looked into the dates mentioned to see if I'd been doing anything untoward. I know I wasn't. and nothing was ever said to me. But they did find something. Turns out money was going missing from the shop, but surprise, surprise, it wasn't me, but Jorge and Shay. They not only set me up for reasons I will never know, but were also falsifying numbers and cashed checks on the system to hide it. One thing Shay was caught doing was deliberately shortchanging customers by taking portions of their winnings without them even knowing. Bear in mind, a lot of customers were elderly men and women. Gordon claims that he once opened up the shop after I and Shay had closed the night before and noticed a cash difference, but had been told not to say anything to me as I was under investigation and it could compromise it. He apologized and I let it go. Needless to say, Jorge and Shay were fired. But it doesn't end there. Our team was small, including me. There was a total of 4 people, or were a total of 4 people working at the store. As they hadn't been able to hire anyone to replace me, Jorge and Shay's termination meant Gordon was the only employee at the busiest shop in our area. Even if they'd been able to get other colleagues from the other 2 shops to help out, it wouldn't have been enough to keep the shop open and manage the amount of customers. So they closed the location down until they could get the staff to run it. It was at that point that Gordon handed in his resignation and applied for his job at my work, meaning they had no one. On top of that, Gordon's girlfriend worked in the same shop as Janelle, and she relayed that she was rarely at their store in the other town for the next few weeks before the area manager reported she was fired as well. No reason given to her. I was later issued an apology for everything by the area manager and informed she, Janelle, was no longer with the company in an email sometime later. But somehow, it doesn't end there. With the store I worked at closed, this one being on the high street where most people preferred to go, the only other location in town was the much smaller location in the suburbs, the one where Kara worked. Alone. She suddenly received an influx of customers into her tiny store space and absolutely no support from other staff or upper management. Thus, for her own mental health, having already been overworked and underpaid, running an entire store by herself, she quit, meaning that location had to be closed down too. All of this at the worst possible time, March, when the Cheltenham Festival was occurring, which is a huge moneymaker for the gambling industry, even in a small town like ours. An opportunity the 3 other bookies on the high street reaped the benefits of instead of my old place, as the former customers went to them instead. As it currently stands, just over a year later, both shops remain closed, and I'm currently entering a job in cybersecurity, the training for which I paid for with my current job. Thanks for firing me, dummies. You did me a favor. Well, I guess it didn't curb the gambling in the area, but they lost out big time. And it's really interesting that they decided to really come down and make things right instead of letting things blow over from that big money-making month until afterwards to deal with everything. Maybe there were some laws in place. I don't know about gambling in the UK, so couldn't tell you. But yeah, amazing that domino effect happening and just watching it. Not even doing anything to be a part of it, just responding to an email. Amazing.
Please like and subscribe if you made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day.
Story 3. Am I the a-hole for high-fiving a stranger who humiliated my boyfriend? My boyfriend and I go to the climbing gym regularly. He's really into it, and I just started climbing a few times a week. He's stupidly competitive about it and quietly insults beginners who are not as good, which makes me feel self-conscious because I'm a beginner. Last night, we were at the climbing gym again, and he was doing a V6. There were about 6 people taking turns on the problem, probably because it's a newly installed route, and they were all falling. Then a girl came and flashed it. She made it so easy, but at the end she didn't hold the final hold for 5 seconds, and my boyfriend called her out after she was done. Holding the last hold for 5 seconds is supposed to be the right way of finishing a route, but she was doing it so easily she definitely could have. I think he was just being salty because she did it when he couldn't. She laughed and told him he didn't even start the problem correctly and walked off. I gave her a high five because she was walking towards me and did amazing at the problem, and knocked my boyfriend off his high horse, and she was surprised but high-fived me. My boyfriend turned to me and gave me a what the hell look and wouldn't talk to me for the rest of the night. When we were heading home, he ranted that I couldn't be trusted to watch his back if I chose to take a stranger's side over him. I was shocked that's what he took from the climb and told him he shouldn't have nitpicked her when she clearly climbed it correctly, and he got mad and argued I was supposed to take his side over people I don't even know. Sounds like he's just kind of a jerk at this competitiveness. And this was not a beginner, and he was really just nitpicking. And if he was giving you grief too, it sounds like he's giving you grief. If he was insulting beginners, it sounds like he really wasn't on your side when you're a beginner climbing all this stuff. So I don't see any real need to be that loyal in this and just to let your feelings know. I'm a beginner, you insult beginners, and I don't feel supported myself. Just communicate that. Story 4. Husband gets revenge against his anti-vax sister. My husband found out the other day from his sister, A, note, A is an anti-vaxxer, that several of his siblings had presented their parents with a memorial plaque for their anniversary. My husband was never asked to contribute, which is unusual for this group. Typically, everyone is asked to pass the hat. He asked A how much the plaque cost and said that he wanted to contribute to it after the fact. This is when A starts getting cagey, dodging the question, and finally telling my husband to pay it forward. He said that that's for drive-thrus, and how much did it cost? Again, she refused to say, then finally told him to pay her $25 to $30. He said no, he would determine what his share was after knowing the final amount. Again, she refused to answer, insisting that he should pay her $25 to $30 to pay it forward. I contacted another in-law of mine, who is married to my husband's brother, and told her the situation. She asked her husband and found out that A had nothing to do with the plaque and hadn't spent any money on it at all. Another sibling, S, had bought the plaque without any outside contribution. So basically, A had seized the opportunity to try to grift off my husband. In response, my husband made a donation in A's name to a pro-vaccine charity and sent her a text to let her know exactly how he'd pay it forward. She's now also signed up for multiple vaccine charity mailing lists. Ooh, it kind of sounds like she was trying to play off the situation. But she also wanted to sound like she was a good person to make him think she was contributing to this plaque. But yeah, everything is just awful there. Just trying to get some money from him. Really bad way for family to try and grift off each other like that. It's just awful. Very creative response, though. Story 5. I am supposed to have money put aside for me for university from both of my passed-away parents. My stepmom says there is no money left, and what was left by my dad was used to send my step-siblings to university and pay for the family's expenses. Can someone help me, please? So, I'm in Toronto, Canada. My mom passed away when I was 2, and we lived in Vancouver at the time. My dad remarried when I was 8, and I ended up becoming the youngest kid in the family. My stepmom has always been mentally unstable and hates me in general. My dad passed away about 6 years ago from cancer. Before my dad passed away, he told me that there was a trust fund set up for me with a fair amount of money to pay for my university from his first wife. He also told me that his will was set up to ensure that I wouldn't need to worry about anything for university or need to worry about money. He told me over and over that I would be taken care of no matter what. Earlier this month, my stepmom made a comment vaguely asking how I expected to pay for college or university on minimum wage. I told her what my dad told me, and she said that everything my dad had left was spent to take care of the family and to send my older step-siblings to university. She said it was first come, first serve. She also had absolutely refused to help me in any way, as it is a waste of her time. I have ripped apart the house trying to find any sort of paperwork from my mom's and dad's estate, but I can't find anything. I have tried to talk to 2 lawyers who specialize in estates and wills. The first one told me that he couldn't consult with a minor unless my guardian is present. No chance. The other one basically wanted a lot of money to even do anything, which I don't have. I have also tried to reach out to my estranged parts of my mom's family. Her sister was able to dig up something with the name of the company who took care of her estate, but that company no longer seems to exist. My dad, on the other hand, was an only child, and as long as I remember, I don't remember anyone from his family, nor can I find anything. I don't really know where to look or what to do at this point anymore. I'm terrified that my stepmother used this money to pay for all the frivolous hogwash she's wasted money on and pay for my step-siblings' tuition. I'm also terrified that there's really no money. If there's really no money, then I'm basically going to get boned hard. I need to get away from my stepmother no matter what. Oh, that's awful. I really hope there's someone that would be able to give them advice. This is one of the times I really wish I knew something about the law, especially about Canadian law. The dad should have provided some sort of will or some sort of thing to just handle that, to just be able to give her some sort of foothold in this situation. I mean, did he know about how badly the stepmother didn't like her? And was there something set aside for this? I really wish there was a follow-up to this, and I really hope it turns out for this person.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.